Hello and welcome to AWS Innovate 2018. I really appreciate that you're taking time out of your busy schedules to learn more about AWS. My name is Manav and I work as a practice manager with the professional services team based in Singapore. At AWS, we have the privilege of working with customers from various industries of different sizes from different parts of the world. Customers use AWS and the services we offer to build new products for their end users. They do this on AWS much faster and at a much lower price point than they ever could in on-premise data centers. Many customers are also migrating their current applications from their on-premise data centers to AWS. They want to do this as quickly as possible for as many applications as they can. They are migrating their applications to AWS as it helps them retire the technical debt that they had accumulated when operating in on-premise data centers. In today's session, we will focus on migrating your applications to AWS. Whether you're just getting started on your journey to AWS or are in the midst of a migration program, or perhaps just curious about the value and benefits of migrating to AWS, then this session is for you. So what's ahead in today's session? In the first 5 minutes or less, I will discuss the value proposition of migrating your applications to AWS. Following which, I will go over a suggested migration methodology. Then we will walk through the various tools and programs that AWS offers to help our customers migrate. After that, we will have a short quiz where I will run through several application types and let's figure out the best way to migrate them to AWS. Lastly, we will close out with what to do next and critical success factors. So why migrate your applications to AWS? The value proposition to this question is manifold, but specifically, I want to address 3 aspects. 1, drive business value. 2, reduce risk. And 3, lower the total cost of ownership or TCO. Let us look into each of these 3 aspects a little bit. Just a quick note before we get into this section, given that this is a level 200 session, I will be spending no more than 5 minutes on the migration value proposition. After that, we will spend the bulk of this session on how to actually migrate to AWS. Migrating to AWS frees up an organization from the undifferentiated heavy lifting of building and operating the underlying IT infrastructure. This frees up IT to drive business value. On AWS, you can quickly meet the needs of your business and users. In the old on-premise world, what took weeks, if not months, can now be done in a matter of minutes on AWS. You can also drive new revenue by creating new capabilities that were just not possible or extremely difficult to acquire in the old on-premise world. For example, on AWS, you can capture real-time streaming data and create a more personalized end-user experience for no upfront cost. In an on-premise world, that would take months of planning, procurement, and engineering, not to mention a huge capital expense upfront. The AWS Cloud drives agility in your business. For example, now you can test a new idea for very little upfront cost. And if it doesn't work, then all you can do is simply spin down the AWS infrastructure you had used for the experiment. If the idea does work, then you can expand your AWS infrastructure to meet the full potential of your idea. Additionally, once your apps are on AWS, you can very quickly react to market demand and dynamics. Migrating to AWS reduces your risk. What do I mean by that? For one, you can limit upfront investment in new ideas. This reduces the risk of a business that wants to enter a new market or roll out a new product. With AWS, you can start small and grow with the success of your idea. Additionally, if for some reason your organization has a change in strategy or wants to pivot a product roadmap, then it's easy to change your mind. On AWS, you only pay for what you use. This means that your planning can be needs-based rather than planning for the maximum expected demand. This is a huge benefit for an organization and reduces risk for it. Lastly, AWS enables a lower total cost of ownership or TCO. With the move to AWS, an organization trades capital expenditure or CapEx for a variable cost model. Think about the last time you had to scope the IT infrastructure for a new application. You likely had to spend money on new servers, storage, networking, cabling, software licenses, facilities, and so on. Additionally, your entire planning was likely based on the maximum anticipated usage of your application rather than the actual demand for it. Let's face it, in an on-premise world, that's what everyone would do. However, on AWS, you only pay for what you need at the time you need it. With AWS, your utilization and manual labor can be optimized. Let me give you two examples. If you have a fleet of development servers in an on-premise world, you are always paying for them. On AWS, you can turn off these dev instances and you can stop paying for them. Similarly, you can automate a number of tasks on AWS, including software patching, archiving, monitoring, and so on. More so, there are a number of tasks like racking and stacking servers, physical security, cabling that you no longer have to worry about. This is a huge saving on manual tasks that frees up your IT to innovate for your business. To sum it up, migrating to AWS helps you drive business value, reduces risk, and lowers your total cost of ownership. In this section, we will cover a suggested migration methodology. This approach is what we have seen work for hundreds of AWS customers worldwide. Now, what I will say is that every organization is different, and your journey might be different. However, it is good to look through the methodology and figure out the relevance of each step for your unique environment. If it is indeed relevant, then adopt it and build out your migration plan. This is the migration methodology that includes 3 steps. 1, a migration readiness assessment, or MRA, is the beginning of your journey to a well-planned and executed migration. The MRA helps you assess your organization's capabilities, readiness, and commitment to migrate to the cloud. 2, migration readiness and planning, or MRP phase, builds your capability to migrate to and operate in the cloud, focusing on operational readiness, skills development, a strong migration plan, including initial migrations, and a compelling business case for the migrations. 3, application migrations. In this phase, migrations can proceed rapidly and efficiently, since it follows the work of building the foundational capabilities. Successive migrations follow a migrate, integrate, test, transform, monitor, and optimize cycle that builds out into a full-scale operating model. Now, let us look at the migration readiness assessment, or the MRA, in more detail. All the activities and outcomes in our migration offerings are based on the AWS Cloud Adoption Framework, or AWS CAF. So what is the AWS CAF? Through the years, AWS has worked with hundreds of customers. We have taken all the learnings from those engagements, what worked, what could have been done better, and developed a comprehensive approach to cloud computing called the AWS CAF. We use the CAF to guide the journey of an enterprise to a cloud-based IT operating model. The AWS CAF identifies and focus areas that are critical to cloud adoption. These focus areas are then grouped into 6 perspectives. A CAF perspective is a combination of CAF capabilities. CAF capabilities are a set of responsibilities typically owned or managed by one or more functionally related stakeholders. Each capability describes what a stakeholder owns or manages in the cloud adoption journey. For example, the people perspective provides guidance for stakeholders who own or manage human resources, staffing functions, and people management responsibilities. Cloud adoption, and therefore migrations to AWS, require buy-in from many areas, not just the technology teams. The MRA assists you to analyze the different areas of the organization that will need to be considered, and teams that have to work together to successfully migrate applications to the cloud. The MRA also looks at areas and teams outside of the technology teams. As part of the MRA, several companies might look to complete a directional business case. A directional business case is a high-level calculation of the potential cost savings and increased business agility associated with the AWS migration. In the migration readiness and planning phase, a detailed migration plan is built, and the tools, expertise, and resources required for successful migrations are put in place. We look at 8 key areas in the MRP. Discovery and planning looks at defining the application patterns and grouping. the application design process, and getting the initial backlog of applications ready to migrate. Migration business case is a detailed total cost of ownership modeling, including the cost of migration. It looks at a business value assessment and options to optimize once the applications are migrated to AWS. The detailed migration business case is an example of a step that you might choose to undertake or not, depending on your organization. Some of our customers do the directional business case in the MRA phase and say that's good enough for them, while other customers like to have the visibility that a detailed business case provides. In the landing zone step, an organization works through building its foundational AWS infrastructure. This step covers the AWS account structure, network design including Amazon Virtual Private Cloud or VPC, identity and access management, log management, and so on. In security and compliance, an organization looks at its governance, risk, and compliance models. It reviews the preventive measures to protect and mitigate threats and its security response playbooks. The importance of having the right skills can't be overstated. Under the skills phase, an organization looks at the cloud expertise across IT, security, and business. What roles it needs to have in its organization, what training to provide them, and what tooling it needs. Migration plan covers project plans, communication plans, and change management. It is important for your migration plan to be robust while it's executed in an agile, sprint-based fashion with a rapid feedback loop. Migration experience focuses on starting migrations and migrating apps from different application patterns. In this step, an organization is looking to test, validate, learn, and get experience from migrating a variety of patterns. Lastly, operating model looks at developing operational runbooks for monitoring, logging, provisioning, asset management, and configuration management. Additionally, it looks at business continuity, planning, and disaster recovery. Up until now, we have spoken about the Migration Readiness Assessment, or MRA, and then the Migration Readiness Planning, or MRP. You must be thinking that's a lot of steps before we actually have even migrated any apps. The reality is that with most of our customer engagements, the migrations start very quickly, and a lot of these steps are executed in parallel. We also try to provide a comprehensive view and list of steps so that organizations can choose what's most relevant to them. So what are some common application migration strategies? If you have listened to migration-focused talks from AWS in the past, you would have heard us talk about the 6 R's, which are the most common application migration strategies. The 6 R's stand for rehost, replatform, refactor, repurchase, retire, and retain. Let us look into these application migration strategies a little bit more. The more we understand them, the easier it becomes to determine their migration steps once they're discovered either manually or using an automated discovery tool. A rehost application migration is best described as a like-for-like or lift and shift migration from on-premise servers onto AWS infrastructure. A replatform application migration is lift, configure, and shift. These applications move to AWS with a few enhancements such as Unix to x86 porting, using auto-scaling groups, or using Amazon relational database services. A refactor, re-architect application migration reimagines how the application is architected and developed. It is transformed in the migration effort into using cloud-native features. A repurchase migration is when the application functionality is replaced by SaaS-based offerings such as Amazon Workspaces. Retire happens when during discovery, the application finds the application itself is not being used or should not be used. It is then turned off and removed. Lastly, there are retain applications. These are not moved and run on legacy infrastructure until end of life. So, these are the 6 R's, or 6 different application migration strategies most commonly seen. Now, let's take some time to review the different migration tools and programs that AWS offers. The tools and programs and other assistance that AWS offers for migrations is comprehensive and split into 4 broad categories. They are 1. Discovery tools, 2. Migration tools, 3. migration programs offered by AWS and AWS migration partners, and 4, documentation and support. In the rest of this section, I will briefly go through the discovery tools, and migration programs. First of all, if you have not already done this, check out the AWS Migration Hub today. To reach the AWS Migration Hub, simply log into the AWS console at aws.amazon.com and then scroll down to the Migration subheader. From there, you will be able to access the AWS Migration Hub. This is the welcome page of the AWS Migration Hub. As you can see, it is broadly split into 3 sections, which are Discover, Migrate, and Track. Discover has tools for application portfolio discovery. Migrate offers solutions from AWS and AWS technology partners to facilitate migrations. Track provides overall progress reporting for the migrations. Let us spend some time looking into each of these sections now. AWS offers integrated discovery tools like the Discovery Connector and the Discovery Agent. The Discovery Connector is agentless and suitable for a VMware vCenter environment, while the Discovery Agent is agent-based. Both these discovery tools collect and present data to enable customers to understand the configuration, usage, and behavior of servers in their on-premise environment. Server data is stored securely by the service, where it can be tagged and grouped into applications to help with the AWS migration planning. The data can be exported for analysis in Excel or other cloud migration analysis tools. Next, under Migration Tools, you will see the AWS Server Migration Service and solutions from AWS technology partners. Let us look at the AWS Server Migration Service and AWS Database Migration Service in a little bit more detail. On your screen, you should be seeing the landing page for the AWS Server Migration Service. AWS Server Migration Service, or AWS SMS, is an agentless service which makes it easier and faster for you to migrate thousands of on-premises workloads to AWS. AWS SMS allows you to automate, schedule, and track incremental replications of live server volumes, making it easier for you to coordinate large-scale server migrations. It is easy to get started with AWS SMS while being cost-effective. It reduces downtime by following an incremental server replication method and provides you with the control to create and manage a customized replication schedule. This is the landing page for the AWS Database Migration Service, or DMS. DMS helps you migrate your on-premise databases to AWS quickly and securely. Your on-premise database stays operational during the migration until you're ready to perform the cutover, thereby reducing the overall downtime of your database. DMS supports homogeneous migrations where the source and destination database engine don't change. For example, Oracle on-premise to Oracle in AWS. DMS also supports heterogeneous migrations, such as Oracle on-premise to Amazon Aurora. An accompanying service of DMS is a schema conversion tool that automatically converts the source database schema and a majority of the database code objects, including views, stored procedures, and functions, to a format compatible with the target database. Lastly, in addition to discovery and migration tools, the Migration Hub also offers a dashboard that allows you to track the progress of your migrations and gives you progress visibility. Now, let's switch gears and talk about one of the AWS programs that we offer our enterprise customers who want to migrate a significant portion of their IT estate to AWS. Over the course of the past years, we have directly helped over 100 enterprises with their migrations through a Migration Acceleration Program, or MAP. We have then taken the learnings from these engagements and looked to use them with thousands of additional enterprises. This program takes a holistic approach to migration and includes 1. A migration methodology where we help customers execute legacy migrations in a methodical way. If you remember, I spoke about the migration methodology at the beginning of the session. It is a great example of a learning that was developed through various MAP engagements and is now shared with all our customers. 2. A robust set of tools to automate and accelerate common migration scenarios. 3. A large and growing ecosystem of vetted migration partners that have the experience and skills needed to execute migrations. 4, a growing practice, that's a specialty practice in AWS around migrations in the professional services team, who are harvesting the various patterns and best practices we encounter and feeding that back into the program and industry. 5, a training program aimed at helping IT professionals understand and execute migrations. In addition to migration solutions being developed by AWS, we have a large and growing community of solutions from our AWS consulting and technology partners. Our customers have also told us that they want to be able to confidently select partners to help them with their migration projects. So, we have worked to develop a broad partner ecosystem for cloud migrations. Partners who have achieved our migration competency have a proven track record of delivering large-scale legacy migrations. They have the people, process, and technology capabilities available to help AWS customers with large migrations. The partners have demonstrated capabilities in either our DevOps or Managed Services program. On top of that, we require them to have a migration methodology that is consistent with what we see works, which we regularly evaluate against our current migration best practices. Up on the screen, you will see the list of migration partners. This list is always growing, and for the most up-to-date list, please visit the URL listed on the screen. All right, now for the part you have been all waiting for, hopefully that is. I'm going to go through the characteristics of 3 different applications. I will describe the type of app, its hardware, operating system, database engine, and dependencies on other apps. On your part, you have to answer with a type of application migration strategy you will adopt to migrate it. As a quick refresher, the application migration strategy is one of the 6 R's we spoke about earlier, including rehost, replatform, refactor, repurchase, retain, and retire. So, scenario 1. This is a typical 3-tier web application that includes the web, app, and database layer. It runs on x86 hardware and it is virtualized. It runs on Microsoft Windows Server. The application has little to no dependency on other applications that are running in the customer's on-premise environment. The app's database can be migrated to Amazon Relational Database Service or Amazon RDS and runs on a supported engine. Overall, the app is well understood and is architected in a way that is clearly understood across the organization. So, how would you migrate this application? My recommendation for this application would be a rehost or lift and shift migration strategy. That was an easy one, and from now on the scenarios go up in complexity. Next, scenario 2. Once again, we have a 3-tier application. However, now the hardware is not x86 and not virtualized. The OS is not supported on AWS, meaning it is running a proprietary OS like AIX. The application also doesn't have many dependencies on other apps. The database can be migrated to Amazon RDS on a supported engine. The architecture is well understood and clearly documented. The app server runs on WebLogic. So what migration path would you choose for this application? While this might look like a tricky application to handle, you can probably adopt a replatform strategy for this application. Okay, now one last scenario. This is a client-server application. It is not x86 and runs on a mainframe. It has several dependencies on other applications. The dependencies and architecture are not well understood. The database can be migrated to Amazon RDS on a supported engine though, and the application itself faces variable, unpredictable demand. Most of all, it is difficult to make code changes on this application. So how would you handle that migration of this application? I would say this is one application where you're better off doing an application refactor to take advantage of cloud-native features and transforming the application itself. Up until now, we discussed why migrate to AWS and its value proposition. Then we discussed the migration methodology, including the migration readiness assessment and the migration and readiness planning. And then we spoke about the different application migration strategies. After that, we discussed various migration tools and programs, and then we went through a mini quiz. Now, in this final section, I will go through recommendations on what you can do next. I will also share some critical learnings or success factors from the past migration projects that we have worked on. First, if you have not done this already, build a business case for migrating to AWS. A business case should give you the potential cost savings and a view of the increased business agility that migrating to AWS will give your organization. You can start with a directional business case and then build a more detailed one if your organization needs it. Building a business case early helps you get the support from your organization's IT and business stakeholders. Next, analyze your application portfolio. This is where you first discover the applications your organization has. Then you go through the list, determining their suitability for migrating to AWS, and determine the application migration strategy. However, as you go through your application portfolio, don't get into the mode of wanting to analyze everything until you know every single detail of every single app before you even start migrations. Get to sufficient detail for a group of applications and start migrating them. The discovery activity for the remaining apps can continue in parallel to the migration effort. Build a migration plan on how you will actually migrate your applications after the initial discovery is done and start to execute on the plan. For your migration plan, just a technical plan will not be a recipe for success. Ensure that your migration plan covers people, process, and technology. For example, consider the AWS infrastructure and your organization's required security controls. Figure out how those controls will translate on AWS. Who will operate your AWS environment, and do they have the necessary skills? Do you have the correct tools in place? Have you included an appropriate change management and communication plan in your migration plan as well? Just expanding on the previous point a little bit more, because it is so vastly important, don't ignore the operating model. Now at this point, several might ask, what is an operating model? Very simply put, and as shown in this graphic, you have a portfolio of applications on the left hand and your people on the right hand side. How your applications and IT infrastructure is designed, built, and operated is the operating model for your organization. I have shown a very simple quadrant on the screen. You can use this to start building your operating model. For every quadrant, including app design, app operations, infra design, and infra operations, determine who will be responsible, accountable, consulted, and informed. Start to put in as much detail as possible and create subcategories. For example, within the infra box, you can split it further into compute, storage, networking, databases, and so on. The clearer your operating model, the faster the velocity with which you can migrate and then operate your application portfolio in AWS. Start migrations. You're probably thinking that's an obvious next step. However, it is easy to get into the mode where you're discovering applications, planning, building the infrastructure, and spending a lot of time on just preparation activities without doing the actual migrations. Once you start migrating, then ensure you're always integrating the learnings into your subsequent migration cycles and executing the next migration cycle faster than the previous one. Lastly, ask for help if you need it. We have several resources to assist you. One, you can access the Migration Hub from our AWS console. Two, there are a number of AWS migration competency partners who can assist you. And three, AWS has resources like solution architects, professional services, and AWS training who can also help you in various phases of your migration journey. To gain more confidence and hands-on experience with AWS, you can access the digital and classroom trainings built and delivered by AWS experts. AWS also has a wide partner ecosystem to help you focus on your success and take full advantage of all the business benefits that AWS has to offer. To learn more about the APN partners and find the right one that fits your needs, please visit the AWS APN booth at our showcase. Finally, I'd like to thank you for attending the session. We hope you found it interesting. Do provide us with your feedback and let us know how we can improve the event experience for you in the future. Now, get started with migrating your applications to AWS and retiring your technical debt.